We could even see Force Ghost Yoda. Does anybody want to see that? Does anybody want to see Force Ghost Yoda interact with little baby Yoda?
Yeah.
I mean, he could be his father for all we know.
Yoda and Yaddle and Grogu.
We have no idea.
And we're going to get Ezra, and Ezra has encountered Yoda. I don't want to speculate too much, but...
Dude, I'm all on this, man. Let's speculate on Yoda showing up in season 4. I love this. This is so good.
Krypton to Alderaan. Krypton to Alderaan. Krypton to Alderaan. Krypton to Alderaan.
Welcome, everyone, to Krypton to Alderaan. I'm Joey, your Star Wars lover, and with me is Royish Good Looks.
Hello, podcast. Hello, podcast hosts.
Robin.
Hello.
And Dr. Lorelai.
Hello.
We're together again.
Yay.
But separate.
Boo.
And we are the podcast that analyzes nerdy pop culture, but it is mostly Star Wars. And this episode, the four of us will be discussing the latter half of The Mandalorian Season 3. For those who don't remember, or for those who weren't here, the four of us got together to do a mid-season review. So if you're new here, or you haven't checked that out, be sure to go do so. But at that time, we had just passed the 180 subscriber mark. And as of now, we're almost to 360. So since the middle of the season of The Mandalorian, we have doubled our subscribers.
That's pretty crazy.
Incredible. It's amazing to see. That also means that we have some great energy. We have some really good momentum here, and we'd love to keep it going. So if you're listening, please hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. That would be amazing. And as always, if you're like, I don't know if I want to subscribe just yet, stick around with us till the end of the episode. Give us a chance to prove that we're worth it. It's always so fun when the four of us get together to do these. There's a lot of opinions flying around, maybe some tepid takes, maybe some hot takes, maybe some cold takes.
Lots of takes.
So many takes and so many of the crazy left field theories. Great, now I got to put that in. Stick around to the end. That's enough of that. And let's get into The Mandalorian. I think I want to start here. In our mid-season review, we had talked a lot about how different this season of the show feels. It was 2 years since we've seen this show, and it just felt very different. Lorelai, I think you mentioned maybe, in your opinion, it being less fun than previous seasons.
I said what I said.
So I wonder where on the temperature scale that would rank as a take. Should we have a take temperature meter? Beep, 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 beep. Hot take.
I would say tepid. I don't think that's that hot.
Tepid take?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. How does the second half of the season, or maybe like now that we've seen the second half, the whole season combined, how does that fit into that? Did it change anything for you or anything like that? Why don't we start with you, Lorelai, since it was your tepid take?
My new tepid take is that I think it got a lot more fun by the end. There was like more action happening. There was just like more of a point. We had more development of the plot in the second half. We finally got to like the meat of the season. Oh, you love to put that steak thing in the video, don't you?
Meat.
We got to the meat.
You said the special word.
We got to the meat finally in like the second to last episode. It was like, oh, this is what this season is about. We're finally here. It ramped up a lot. You know, I was more into the second half for sure. I think the writing got a little better. Better Grogu moments, which is always important.
Yeah, we got to see more Grogu because they came up with a way for him to be maybe like kept a little bit more safe or keep up with everybody while they're on adventures.
And also at like regular height.
Right.
He's like in the shot now.
Yeah. How about you, Robin? What did you think?
Second half was significantly better, in my opinion. I wasn't super interested in anything until we got to the episode with the IG suit. And then I was all the way in. That was one of the most interesting moments of the entire season, in my opinion. The second half was kind of what I was expecting the entire season to be, and it was on par with all of the other seasons.
On par with the other seasons.
Yeah.
So that seems like a pretty big redemption, it sounds like, for the second half, maybe for both you and Lorelai, that like, hey, stuff actually happened and we got back to the fun Grogu moments that That's what you guys are here for, more or less. And they sprinkle those in. Yeah, the IG scene, like, I know we're maybe going to talk about some favorite moments later, but like, if that's not on one or all of our lists, I would be very surprised.
Yeah. When did he get that suit? Was that in the second to last episode?
I don't know if it was the one right after we came back. So the interesting thing we should note is that when we did the mid-season review, that was after the Foundling episode where Ragnar gets kidnapped
by the birds.
Right. And the convert episode after they had been on Coruscant for the whole time. So we got some really weird, Robin called it like filler. Every now and then we get some filler episodes, right? So we had those kind of like, for lack of a better term, maybe like letdown episodes. And then when we came back, episode 5 was the pirate episode, which maybe was kind of fillery, but that was a lot of fun action, I think. And I don't know if that's the one where he gets the suit or if it's Guns for Hire or the Spies. I think it's in the Spies. Is it the second to last episode?
Yeah, I think so. Because Guns for Hire is the one with Lizzo.
Yeah. So we're looking at the Wikipedia list of episodes now. So that wasn't until the second to last episode, but that felt like a long time ago to me for some reason. Is that, I feel like we all think that for some reason.
I think we're putting a lot of weight on the final two episodes as retribution for this season. I don't mean any judgment to the episodes that came before that. I'm just saying it seems like a lot of the stuff we're stating that we liked come in the last 2 episodes. I really like that Jack Black and Lizzo episode with the battle droids. Like that's the kind of stuff like I wouldn't mind seeing going forward. And I think that was the most fun episode of the season, right? But I think like the last 2, like you're saying, Lorelai, we finally started to get an understanding of what was happening this season, what it was all for, what it was leading to, but that's like what a finale is supposed to do. Royce and I had talked a little bit about it. Maybe some of that stuff could have been spread out more throughout the season or whatever. But yeah, it's interesting to hear us all talk about this because I think we are putting an emphasis on those last 2 episodes.
We're eventually just going to think of season 3 as these last 2 episodes for the most part, I feel like.
There are moments in this season that I did enjoy, and I think it's kind of a bummer that might be the case. Like, we will think of those episodes as
the singles, not the B-sides.
Yeah, I think actually our mid-season review is when your music analogy started also. So
I'm going to pick up on that then, because that's the issue, is that you don't put the singles on tracks 7 and 8, the very end of the album. That's what you would call the deep cut. Obviously, you can't like shuffle the plot around like you would maybe on songs on an album, but those ideas needed to be a little bit like further in the beginning to hook you into the end. Although I really love the Minds of Mandalore stuff and when he's being redeemed, like that seemed kind of meaty to me, but then we diverged into the Coruscant stuff in the first half.
Yeah.
They picked it up. They redeemed themselves in the second half.
I think we're being a little harsh as well. Well, I shouldn't put words into y'all's mouths, but I do feel like I'm being a little bit harsh. I have had some issues with this season that I've expressed on this podcast, and it doesn't feel good. Like I've said a million times that I want to enjoy this show. And yeah, the last few episodes I really enjoyed, but it was kind of a bumpy road to get there. Right?
I never enjoyed the pacing of Boba Fett with the flashbacks, was like really weird. But then that one dude remixed it and I was like, this is actually pretty dope. Like both storylines work better in that linear fashion. It's not how they told the story on Disney Plus. A lot of cool elements were there. And it's kind of the same thing with this. It's just that you get things when you get them in the order you get them. It affects how you might enjoy it in real time. But then in hindsight, you can look back and be like, oh yeah, maybe that Guns for Hire episode was a cool side plot if it wasn't in the middle of like the Mandalorian's supposed to be going back to Mandalore. And we're like doing a buddy cop episode, CSI episode in the middle of the cool stuff.
You know, we're also trying to do a thing on here where we rewrite less and are more generous with our critiques, which I also think is important. And Royce, I sent you that clip from Star Wars Celebration. I only was able to watch the live stage, so I don't necessarily know exactly what was said on the like Mandalorian panel, but seeing Rick Famuyiwa and Katie Sackhoff there on the live stage talking about it is what I've said before. Seeing the creators and the cast talk about their love for Star Wars and their love for making this show changes things for me. Rick Famuyiwa had much more of a role in this season. He led this season along with Favreau, I think. It was just cool to see him talk about it on the stage at Star Wars Celebration and definitely like elevates my level of respect for this season of The Mandalorian, seeing one of the creators talk about it.
Yeah, he was like, I played with Star Wars action figures when I was a kid, and that was my research to be able to do this job that I now have telling new Star Wars stories. And it's like, oh yeah, I used to like play with Star Wars figures. Like maybe if I was put in that position, like, you would do exactly what he's doing, and you would also be getting railed on Twitter as well.
Yeah. We all do it, right? That's the thing about rewriting. Even if we were in charge, if we were there making the thing, it would be what our vision of the thing.
Yeah, Rick Famuyiwa wouldn't like what you were doing with it.
Right. Exactly.
He would be on a podcast bitching about it with his 4 buddies.
Yeah. There's always also that to consider, right? Everything is someone's thing, whether or not it's your thing. We also talked about Din learning a lesson about the Children of the Watch. Like, we've spent 2 and 3/4 seasons saying this is a very culty environment. Maybe it's not super healthy. Why does he continue to go back there? Why is he bringing Grogu into that? Does anyone feel any differently about that given the latter half of this season? Because I have some thoughts on that. What do you think, Lorelai?
They did turn it around a little bit in terms of like, okay, now at least the culty people are like more accepting of not culty people. They're all still crazy, but they're at least like willing to be around people who take their helmets off and are like willing to work with them as opposed to cutting off all ties. It seems like that was how it was going before. I guess if you're going to be in a crazy cult, and as we've said in the sort of like halfway point, we are anti-cult on this podcast.
Yeah, taking a hard stance. That's a cold take.
That's a cold take, is that we are anti-cult. If you're going to be in a crazy cult, at least you should like work with other people. So it's nice to see they're more collaborative by the end. Even
if you're going to be in a crazy cult, you might as well be accepting.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you feel, Robin?
I think it's still pretty culty, but to second what Lorelai said, it's not quite as bad because they're a little bit more accepting now. It's so weird to me that he keeps going back because they're so mean to him. They weren't incredibly accepting of him, and they found out he took off his helmet, and it was like watching an episode of like Mean Girls or something. I guess they're a little bit more accepting, so it's not quite as bad, but I want him to stop going back. He's got his thing now. He lives on a different planet, and I kind of hope we've seen the last of other Mandalorians, at least in bulk like that.
Bulk Mandalorians.
Interesting. So we're forming our own cult.
Yeah.
We're forming our own cult. No Mandalorians allowed.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Royce and I talked a little bit about this on our last episode, but part of my interpretation of the final scene with Din and the armorer at the Living Waters was that she might have been testing Din this whole time, like setting him up to learn things on his own. And when he finally decides to adopt Grogu, right in that moment, she says, "This is the way. You finally got it, man. I've been trying to lead you down this road this whole time. You finally get that this is the way." So I'm curious if yes, we've seen the armorer be a little bit mean to him, be fairly close-minded towards him and stuff like that. But do you think that there's anything there that she could have been just like trying to guide him through all of this? What's your take on that?
I don't know if I would say I think she was guiding him, but maybe just was happy with his conclusion and was like, that's cool. I like that. This is good stuff.
I mean, it would have been awkward if she's like, oh, his parents might even be dead, so he could never be a Mandalorian. And then Din's just like, okay, never mind. You know, like
cut to credits.
Yeah, that's very awkward. And like, you're right. The armorer would be like, yeah, you need to be there for him. He has no one else but you. It has to be you. Mm-hmm. That's the way I've been trying to tell you.
It's another one of those meta moments maybe where the audience is also like, yeah, man, that's the way. Like, come on.
Yeah.
What do you think, Lorelai? Do you think there's any room there for the armorer having, like, through the first few seasons of this show, trying to guide him?
I feel like he basically made the decision to adopt Grogu, like, in the first season. Mm-hmm. Like, this formalized the whole situation, but he, like, made it pretty clear that he was going to, like, risk his life to protect the tiny baby.
Well, but then he played the reluctant father, though, and he tried to give him away to Ahsoka, and Ahsoka said no, and then he, like, took him to
he was trying to do the right thing. Luke. It wasn't, like, about, I don't want him. It was like, I'm trying to figure out what the best thing is for this baby, and it's probably to like go train to be a Jedi. So I think all along he's been trying to do the best thing for Grogu, and the armorer, I don't think has the same priorities. She was kind of like meh about it. So I don't think she's really been guiding him. I think this is something he committed to very early on, and this is just kind of like the next step.
Yeah. I do think it's the next step. I disagree, though, because I think Din is a little bit of a himbo. And B, yeah, I don't know. That final scene just makes me think like she was his leader, and he was obviously always trying to please her. He wanted to get redeemed. He wanted to go to Mandalore, even though no one told him it could be done, because he wanted to be with her or be part of that group. Like I said, I want to go back and rewatch the scenes with her in it to try to open my eyes, because I really didn't like her that much. But I do think it's an interesting thing that she might have been trying to guide him, because he maybe needs a little bit of help with stuff like that, like making those kinds of decisions.
Yeah, I think she was maybe trying to guide him back towards the way. Like she didn't like that he was being a bounty hunter. So maybe she wanted to like bring him back into the fold and like get him to be doing something that was a little bit more meaningful. But I don't think that was necessarily like about Grogu.
Interesting.
Well, it's like, what does "this is the way" mean? Like it sounds like it's black or white, like you only do this thing, but that clearly is just like a slogan that includes a couple of bullet points underneath. Part of that must be having a family, like the clan of two. Like they had the Mudhorn, in Signet, right? But that was because Grogu saved Din from the Mudhorn. Like they were already a family. So there's something to that the armor was like, you've always been a family, and now you can officially be a family on paper, whether that's different or not for some people in the audience. Like, I don't know if that's the armorer having to guide him to have the realization on his own. But I think you're right. We have to rewatch a supercut of all of the armorer's scenes and dialogue and mannerisms. But that's going to be almost like a retcon in a way, that you will inevitably read it differently, intentional or not.
Yes, I don't necessarily think that's always good. I don't necessarily think you should always rely on one thing to make its predecessors good. But sometimes we've been watching the show a certain way and enjoying it. And now if we go back to see it through new lenses with this new knowledge, there's something very fun there. It makes it like new to us. We're seeing it as something different than what we got to see the first time. And I really like that kind of thing. Maybe not necessarily like a huge retcon, but just like, with better understanding of the characters and their actions.
Yeah. Well, it's like when you watch New Hope and Alec Guinness says, I fought with your father in the Clone Wars. Like at the time, It literally meant nothing, but another TV show gives more context to that line, that they were never intentionally planned to work together. But you're like, whoa, that totally ties in. It's the same idea.
I guess that is a very like Star Wars thing in that sense. And I love that. Lorelai, you made me remember something. The armorer not liking that Din was a bounty hunter, and that's when we first meet Paz Vizsla, and him not liking Din as a bounty hunter because Din got paid in Beskar. Could that Beskar that he was getting paid in have come from Moff Gideon on Mandalore? Like, was Moff mining the Beskar at that point to build his suits and stuff, or whatever? Was he set up on Mandalore?
I mean, it seemed like he had been there for a while.
Yeah.
They didn't build that in a day.
They built a whole base.
Yeah.
I think that all ties in with some of the redemption themes in this season. Greef Karga was involved in all that bounty hunter stuff, and he knew of the client. He was like, this is an off the books thing or whatever. So he was still connected, maybe through some of Moff's underlings or whatever. In the end, like Paz and Mando get along, or Paz and Din get along, and the different Mandalorian tribes get along, and the Mandalorians and Greef Karga get along. Like there's a lot of forgiveness and acceptance throughout this entire season.
Yeah, that's very true. So maybe even this season, going back and watching it with those lenses, so much forgiveness. Like the Mandalorians with Karga and Din and Bo-Katan having to talk them into going to help him. And then also like between Paz and Axe, like they fight, but then they like, I think they're the two that rescue Grogu. They like lift off that barge with him to fly him away from the giant monster that's attacking the barge. Paz lays down cover so that Axe can escape the caves. And I think that that's really cool. So maybe another thing that would elevate a rewatch of the show, thinking about little redemption arcs throughout the whole thing. The mid-season episode was The Foundling, and when we had talked, we were talking about Grogu like going through Mandalorian training, and I didn't really like the child soldier aspect of it. And we had talked about like that being part of Grogu's character development. And Lorelai, I think you said you thought he was going to find a line between Mandalorian and a Jedi. And Robin, you said you would like to see him become like a Mandalorian Jedi. Then at the end, when they are all fighting Gideon together at the end of this season, he's not using his powers for attack. I think we saw him a little bit reluctant to get that wrist launcher strapped to his arm during that training and stuff. And we were like, is he going to be violent? We've seen him force choke people and stuff like that. So do you think this is him coming into being a Mandalorian Jedi, only using both sets of skills for defense?
I think it definitely sort of reflects his Jedi training, right? That he's now like only using his force skills for defense, right? Rather than like attacking people. He never really struck me as the like Mandalorian warrior in terms of like, I mean, he's also just like a little kid.
Right. That's part of the point. Like he's also a baby, but we definitely saw him like force choking people in the first season.
Yeah.
So,
but then he like went and trained with Luke for a while and maybe learned that you shouldn't force choke people unless you
maybe
really have to.
Or maybe he just learned that you can levitate frogs.
Yeah.
He definitely learned something. I think it's cool to see him being kind of like on that path, maybe more of a pacifist Mandalorian, which was one of the goals of some Mandalorians in the Clone Wars. What do you think, Robin?
It definitely seems to be like hinting at him becoming a Mandalorian Jedi, but I really liked the first couple seasons when he was kicking ass with his powers and, someone would upset him and he would force choke him. And I think probably confuse people a little bit, like, who's choking me right now? Oh my God, it's a baby. But it was interesting in the last couple episodes to see him, like I noticed a lot of moments where he was using the force to like move a weapon away from someone or something really simple where they cut for like half a second. So I thought that was really interesting that he wasn't directly hurting anyone, but he was just kind of watching him being like, I'm going to move this and I'm going to move this.
Yeah, and just the episode before that, he's breaking up the fight with Paz and Woves, and he's not using the Force to do that. He uses the IG unit, although it would have been really cool if he used the Force to do that. Like, I think the IG thing, like you said, it brings him on eye level with other characters, so he looks like the same stature, and it's sort of like a mechanical thing that's almost like Beskar steel in a way that, like, he has gear like the other Mandos. But I think it would be even more powerful if he's using his Force powers on the other Mandalorians. Moff Gideon says, "You're nothing without your trinkets." Well, like, maybe he doesn't have to have any trinkets. And maybe he does, like, take the creed and never wear a helmet. That would be sick if you're talking about the Mandalorians accepting, like, a new way that Grogu eventually takes the creed when he can talk. And, well, I guess he's already technically in. He didn't have to, like, say the creed, but I forget how exactly they explained that in the show. But he didn't have to say anything at that moment. Yeah. But he breaks up a fight with the Force, and that's, what he brings to the table as a warrior Jedi Mandalorian. I think that's interesting. Like, it's not just his training with Luke, he used the IG unit to back off those people. So he has just an ethos of, like, we shouldn't attack each other. He's on the same page as Bo. Like, we're stronger together. And I don't know, maybe with the Praetorian Guards, he just couldn't have force choked them or, like, actually attacked them. So he just played defense instead. I don't know. You could read that a couple different ways.
Yeah. When they're fighting Gideon, he doesn't use any attack. He pushes the weapons away and stuff like that. And I love what you said about Gideon saying Mandalorians are nothing without their trinkets. And then we see the IG suit get destroyed and Grogu still joins the battle as the Mandalorian / Jedi still, like, joins the battle without any trinkets.
Dude, right? And he saves Bo and Din with the Force. The one thing that Moff could not have to himself.
The one thing I never had, the Force.
Robin, please say your line for that. Do you remember what you said? Robin was like, the one thing I never had, the love from my father.
And now he'll never be able to give his love to his clones. They'll grow up just like him. I love that. The no trinkets thing, and then we see, like, I was a little disappointed we see the IG suit get cut up and we only got to see him in it for a little bit. But now, again, like, hearing you talk about that, Royce, the trinkets line makes me appreciate that more. We got rid of the crutches, right? The Darksaber's gone, the IG suit's gone. This is just
half the Mandalorians don't even wear helmets.
3 different tribes coming together to fight this bad guy. Bo-Katan, the Night Owl, and Mandalorian Child of the Watch, and Grogu, Jedi Mandalorian, coming together, unifying to beat the bad guy. But with Grogu being the Mandalorian Jedi, we maybe had thought that the Darksaber would become his, and that would give him permission to be that person for the Mandalorians, and now the Darksaber is gone. So is that even something we still want for Grogu? now, given the latter half of this season and really the end with Din and Grogu kind of going off on their own again, but there's no Darksaber now, so can there even be that person?
Yeah, I think the end was like a little bit confusing in that way because I feel like when he like shed the IG-11 suit and like started using the Force, he was kind of going back towards just being a Jedi. Like I thought that was a little bit symbolic of like the trinkets actually just like hindering his ability to like fight and like connect with the Force maybe. But then he like doesn't really take the creed because he can't talk. I'm kind of confused in terms of like what they're trying to show at the end of the episode where it's like, which way is he kind of leaning? Or is he trying to be in the middle? He's taking the creed, but not using the suit. And he's just going to use the Force and walk as fast as he can on his little legs, you know? I don't think I ever really saw him wielding the Darksaber. I think it's just like, he's too little. It would take several hundred years for him to like have the ability to do that. He wasn't going to be ready.
I mean, we can't ignore the fact that Darksaber was supposed to be won in like battle.
Yeah.
So Grogu would have had to kick someone's butt and take the Darksaber. I think it's more of a fantasy of like, we love baby Grogu, so it would be sick to see him leading. But again, we forget he's the baby. You know, he didn't even take the creed. He like falls over after doing manual labor. So he's not, why would he be the leader? You know, it makes no sense other than it's a really fun headcanon, you know, rewrite story, fan fiction.
Yeah.
I feel like it wouldn't be Grogu if it's anyone. I feel like they've definitely set it up that it could just be Bo-Katan without a Darksaber who unites them because that's kind of what she's already doing. She's kind of been set up by the Armorer to be the bridge between the two. So
they're already reunited.
Yeah.
But I think maybe like the middle ground here is he's not going to have the Darksaber. Maybe they rebuild the Darksaber or not or fix it. If they did, I would assume it would still be Bo's. Or it would be like in a hall somewhere as like a statue sort of thing. But like, I still would love to see him with a lightsaber and meet another Jedi or go back to Luke for like additional training. Maybe Luke comes to a point where he's still willing to like train someone, but not on like a long-term basis or something. Like Mando's like, he needs a weapon to keep up with me. Or his powers get too strong and he needs to actually get training to control some of his newer abilities as he gets older. And part of that might be getting a lightsaber, maybe?
Yeah, I would love to see him get a lightsaber. I think
the younglings get lightsabers when they're like 6. So why wouldn't he?
Yeah. Lorelai, I liked what you said about him shedding the trinkets and like maybe that symbolizing him becoming more of a Jedi than a Mandalorian. What I really love is the idea of him becoming like this pacifist Mandalorian. He's being raised by Mandalorians and he loves his dad. We know that. And we're seeing all of this stuff happen. And I would love to see him build a symbolic lightsaber. Younglings go to Ilum, they get their crystals, and they all build their own unique thing. But the Darksaber was created by a very specific person and has transcended generations, symbolizing something, whether it's the leader of Mandalore or one thing or another. I think it would be amazing to see him build a special lightsaber signifying being a Jedi and a Mandalorian, just like Tar Vizsla did with the Darksaber, right? Unifying those two cultures, which have not been, I don't think there's been a Jedi Mandalorian other than Tar Vizsla. In current canon, I don't know if there is another one. It would be very cool if the first Jedi Mandalorian created the Darksaber, and now the second one creates this new lightsaber signifying kind of the same thing, the unifying of those cultures. Maybe we'll see that. Or as Lorelai said, maybe he has to be like 500 before he can ever even become anywhere close to that.
Dude, it would be cool if Grogu builds a lightsaber with another Jedi and then it lights up and it's like a random color. And then Din's like, oh, I thought they were all like black or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Like not even to know that it could be green or blue or like a beautiful color rather than a dark saber.
Right. I don't even know if he saw Ahsoka's when they were fighting.
He might have. They tag team some stuff, I think.
So then they're either black or white.
Yeah. Ooh.
You know?
It's like poetry.
Yeah. It'll be awesome to see him see another Jedi. I do think like maybe we're setting it up for someone like Ezra to be more a training role, or we could even see Force Ghost Yoda. Does anybody want to see that? Does anybody want to see Force Ghost Yoda interact with little baby Yoda?
Yeah.
But don't you need training to be able to see the Force Ghosts too?
Well, you know, that's a good
Maybe
point.
not, because Obi-Wan shows up to Luke before he's really had crazy training.
Yeah, and also Grogu's so powerful. and of the same species as Yoda, which are just like very rare and very powerful in the Force. They might just have a connection, who knows?
I mean, he could be his father for all we know.
Yoda and Yaddle and Grogu.
We have no idea.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd want to see him train Grogu, but I would love to see him show up, even if it was like a somewhat facetious manner, like in, which movie was that? Was that Last Jedi? Yeah, where he's just kind of joking around and being like, what are you doing? You're being stupid. I'd love to see him either do something like short like that, having fun, showing him he can have fun, or I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I necessarily want to see him do the training, but I wouldn't be mad about it.
Right.
See him in a vision would be really cool, though. Like, briefly. Yeah, like, whoo, there's another...
And we're going to get Ezra, and Ezra has encountered Yoda and stuff like that before. It would be cool if Ezra's the one who... I don't want to speculate too much, but...
Dude, I'm all on this, man. Let's speculate on Yoda showing up in season 4. I love this. This is so good.
I am very on board with Ezra taking a role in training Grogu. Ezra only means something to 2 of us here on the podcast, but listeners, let me know what you think. I'm 100% in for them finding Ezra and Ezra having some kind of role in training Grogu, and maybe that becoming him learning more about Yoda and maybe learning how to commune with Yoda and stuff like that. I think that would be awesome to see. But I also think that Ezra will make the best teacher. Like, he had the best teacher, certainly most well-rounded teacher in terms of like being a Jedi with emotional connections, and also just like how to be a good person out in the galaxy. So I would love to see that. Speaking of speculating, Robin, you alluded to a little bit of this already. Getting into season 4, whenever that's going to happen, what is most appealing to us going forward? We see them on the farm. We get this nice little vignette of Baby Yoda floating the frog. Royce and I talked about the music in that scene being very definitive, like this is the end. How do we feel about that? How do we feel about that scene? What do you think it means for the future of Din and Grogu as this like clan of 2?
I thought that scene was really cute with like Din's just like sitting on the front porch or whatever in his suit. I was like, aren't you hot? Like, don't you have like summer wear? I don't know. Like, you could take your armor off. You're just chilling.
I think it's air conditioned.
Oh, okay. But still, like, why are you wearing your armor when you're like sitting on your front porch?
Never takes it off. Din Djarin never nude.
Yeah, but like you can keep the helmet on, but like the rest of it. It was a nice scene. I feel like we would have known already if it was actually going to be like the end of the show. But I think like going forward, the fact that they went and talked to what's-his-face and were like, oh, we're looking for bad guys to hunt down.
Carson Teva.
Yeah, that guy. What's-his-face? They're kind of signaling that they're going to be back towards sort of like the beginning of the show and doing like the bounty hunter thing. And then we had talked about maybe, I feel like this is going to replace what the Raiders of the New Republic or whatever that show is supposed to be.
Yeah.
Until What's-Her-Face got canceled for being a transphobe. I obviously know everybody's names. So now they're like, okay, we need like a fun adventure story and we're going to do it with these characters. I think the episode on Coruscant kind of signaled, okay, we're going to try to tie this into the bigger picture, at least somewhat, but they're going to kind of return to more just like adventures, going to go across the galaxy and find bad guys. And it'll be so nice. And then they'll go back to their little cabin and they have a home and they're a family. And it's so nice.
And R5's there with the hot, fresh cooked meal waiting for them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that. I really want, that's something I'm really looking forward to going forward. And I wouldn't say that they were trying to tie it into the bigger story. I would say that they were trying to shove it in to the bigger story, like at all costs, which I'm glad that it looks, this is symbolizing to me that they are getting away from doing that.
Yeah.
Like, I like that Coruscant episode, but then at the end, it was just like, okay, well, that was obviously just I'm being harsh again, but it just like,
it wasn't really relevant to the story. Like,
but
honestly, they could have just shown up and then Moff Gideon would have had all those clones and we would have been like, oh shit, he's been cloning himself. Like, we didn't need the whole
It was
Coruscant.
important to see that Pershing got his mind scrambled because now he can't like help Project Necromancer, right? We hear the Shadow Council talk about Project Necromancer and that's when Commandant Hux asks about Pershing. So we got a little bit of backstory there, but again, it was just like, for my taste, it was trying too hard to shove it into this Imperial Remnant story. So yeah, I will love to see them going back to adventures, hunting down these Imperial remnants.
I love the ending. I thought it was perfect. I hate endings of shows like season finales where you're like, I'm on the edge of my seat. What is going to happen?
Yeah.
Which I think maybe I'm in the minority there, but like, I'm going to keep watching because I want to see them hanging out, having fun. I want to watch the Grogu adventures. And I'm so happy that they finally ended a season on like a happy note and they are like peaceful. And all I want in season 4 is like them having fun. I want them to have peace. I don't want to ever see Moff Gideon and his cronies again.
His stupid face.
Yeah. I need them to be done with all of that and just, you know, like he encounters a bad guy and they fight him and it's one episode and like that's it. The Moff Gideon stuff I want to just be like gone forever. I want them to have peace.
Well, there's the one episode in season 2 where they're helping the alien take her eggs back to their partner.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so that was like side quest filler or whatever, but just a contained little fun story. And Grogu's eating the eggs and he's scared of the spiders. Like happy go, like you said, maybe he's a little bit in danger, but you're smiling right now. You're like, yeah, let's go back and rewatch that episode. That was like kind of
I
cute.
love that episode.
Yeah.
It's so nice. Yeah, I just like that episode a lot. So yeah, more stuff like that. And I'm completely on board with like each season ending in a very not cliffhangery way, right? Like A New Hope. They didn't know they were going to make more, but A New Hope is like, everyone's getting medals and we're playing this fun music. It'd be interesting to talk about that music, Royce. Like, is that definitive ending music?
I have things to say about that for sure.
Yeah, I want that. I really like that as an end. Like, if this were the true end, this could be the true end and we'd be happy. They lived happily ever after on the farm.
A lot of people have been saying that it's like a clean slate, that they could just do whatever next and they're free to do that. And that's cool. Dude, but the thing I'm worried about is like the show is still called The Mandalorian and like
here we go.
Din is the Mandalorian, but we have learned so much about the Mandalorian culture. And I would be really sad to not continue the stuff on Mandalore. Like I kind of selfishly submitted this question to our group thread to like, we're just going to see Din and Grogu doing cute adventures, just the two of them. And I'm okay with that because that's how we started. But then we learned about this rich culture with subcultures underneath it. And they have a whole freaking planet. And now they need to like rebuild the planet. They just found out that they could grow crops there. There's so much more to explore on Mandalore. Ooh, I need to write that down for some lyrics right there. Explore in Mandalore. Who knew those rhymed? Great.
Get ready for comments that say, you should also rhyme it with this.
So I would be a little sad if we never returned to Mandalore the planet, or if we never saw Axe again, or even like Ragnar, you know, like Joey, you said, you know, hey, does Ragnar...
Oh, don't spoil it.
You know, there's more there, maybe. Who knows? So are we going to see Ragnar? Are we going to see Woz? I forget the other Lady Mandalorian that was hanging out with Bo and Axe.
Casca Reeves.
Casca. So we've seen her face. Like we've kind of gotten used to seeing her around. And of course, Bo and the Armorer. These are all characters that we've kind of learned a lot about within this one season. And to never go back to them, I would be bummed. So I hope that there is a little bit of balance there, because they can't then have the Mandalorian Din and Grogu show and then like the Mandalorian Planet show or something. You know, that's still one show. Not that it can't show up elsewhere, but are we just done learning about the Mandalorian culture? That would be sad.
Yeah, I agree. And I also think that the Mandalorians are going to have to take part in this fight that's coming up, you know, in a couple of years with the Imperial Remnant and whoever the big bad is. I also just want to interject real quick that Casca Reeves quickly became one of my favorite Mandalorians. She's a badass. When Bo's talking to the Mandalorian survivors and the captain says, you know, they bombed our planet twice over because we didn't surrender. And Bo says, that's not true. I surrendered. Casca Reeves, it cuts to Casca and she almost like defends Bo and Bo is like, no. And then in the fight, in the final battle, she's the one who like flies around the bridge and then turns off her jetpack and drops down and then like knee rockets we should watch that scene again because it's incredible. She's so cool.
Listeners, Joey just reenacted that with his hands on screen. You couldn't see, but
yeah. We should start recording this. She's awesome. I would buy a Casca Reeves figure, but I also want to see more of the Mandalorians. And One, I think we all, as a fandom, as a society, put too much emphasis on titles. I know that titles mean a thing. It's called The Mandalorian. It's called Andor. Why are we spending so much time with everyone besides Andor? You know, we say that every time.
Called Mandalorian, not Mandalorians.
Right.
We can only have one.
But I also think that that limits the room for the show to grow. And again, like if the creators wanted to go a certain way, you know, there was, again, I didn't see the panel. There's been talk of like Famayua and others saying it's going to become more of the Mandalorian is a people. What's that line from Ragnarok? It's not a place, it's a people. You know, that kind of thing. He alludes a little bit to it on the live stage, the clip that I sent you, Royce. I'll put the clip in the show notes. But I think maybe disassociating the title from like having that much weight on a thing.
The Last Jedi.
Right. We're kind of like putting ourselves in this box. We're almost setting ourselves up to not enjoy a thing if
That's
it
a
goes
really good
past
point.
what the title is trying to say. So, but I also think it's all whatever we want to see. The four of us, we're very different levels of fans. You know, we've got something for everyone here on Krypton to Alderaan, from the super fan to the casual fan. And we each want to see different things. We each like to see different things. And I'm okay with The Mandalorian, the title, not pigeonholing the show, not having one specific meaning. Like it could mean Din, it could mean Grogu, it could mean Bo. It's like there are so many. It's like you were saying earlier, Royce, with "this is the way" being more than a black and white statement. The Mandalorian can mean so many different things. And that's really what this season, I think, above all else, taught us. And we saw the characters in the show even learn that, right? We see the armorer say, you know what, Bo-Katan, you've lived in both worlds. You can unite us. You can do that. She's expanding her definition of what a Mandalorian is. And now they're all together, being farmers on Mandalore. Whoever saw that coming. All that is to say that I will also enjoy seeing more of the Mandalorian culture developed, and maybe Din and Grogu go back there from time to time and check in and that kind of thing. You know, we go and see their farms. I mean, we're going to have to go see Mandalore again because it's going to be like it was set up to where they are going to revitalize it, and it will be beautiful. And also, they showed us the Mythosaur twice, and there has to be something more there. It has to be. So that's definitely putting too much weight on things. That's me setting an expectation that if I'm going to be disappointed.
That's the White Walkers are coming thing. We're not going to get to that until season 8, you know?
Right. Yeah. Season 8. And then we'll be like, no, just kidding. Game of Thrones was bad the whole time. Don't let anyone tell you differently.
Hot take.
Oh, get the take meter out. Beep, 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 boop, 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 boop. Hot take. Yeah. So that's my spiel about that. Did I ask everyone that question? Or where were we with that one?
You got to put in your take like 3 or 4 times with that one, Joey. So I think we're set on that one.
Sorry. I'm so sorry, but I'm very passionate about it. And Costco Reeves was badass. Let's end on a happy note. What was the highlight of this season for you?
I think my favorite part was when Grogu comes back to save Din. At the end of the second to last episode, we were like, wait, Grogu didn't crawl through that hole.
Oh, yeah.
And
I had not noticed that.
Yeah, and then we were like, wait, so he's going to be the one to go get Din out of this sticky situation.
Yeah.
And then that turned out to be the case. So that was so nice to see him like come around. I don't even really remember what happened, but he like comes around the corner and like helps him escape basically. And then there's like the moment when Moff Gideon's like kicking his ass, and all of a sudden you just hear, no. It's just like Baby Yoda like comes around. He's like, no, that's my dad. And it was just so cute.
Yeah, the super commandos got like the blaster to Din's head, and Grogu comes in the armor and crushes the blaster and saves him. One of the people we were watching it with pointed out that Bo cuts that hole and she's like, let's go. Paz is like, I'll lay down cover. And we don't see Grogu go through. I had not noticed that.
And it would have taken him like 10 years to get through that hole because it's awkward.
So yeah, that's a really good point and a really good scene. I love that. What do you think, Robin? What was a highlight for you?
I liked that one a lot, but I think I'm going to say just towards the end when they were hanging out in whatever bar that was, and he was just like Grogu sitting on the counter, like eating Cheetos, like happy little kid. And he just kept pointing at like the IG helmet, and he's just happy little baby Grogu eating Cheetos.
Yeah.
I was like, this is nice. That was my favorite.
Let me ask a follow-up question with that, because they take that IG head and rebuild IG-11 to be the Marshal of Navarro. But Grief Karga just gave them that suit and got the Anzellans to like spend time making it for Grogu. Do you think he felt a little bad? Like, dude, I just gave this to you and now you're like giving it back to me? I thought I was doing you a favor here. Is there any of that there? Or you just,
Mando needed
no?
a droid, so he got R5, and now he's got
Yeah.
R5 instead of IG.
Yeah.
He needed it to test the air or whatever. So
Yeah. Good job, buddy. Oh, I really love R5. What do you think, Royce? What was a highlight for you?
I do love the scene Robin's pointing out, because when I was helping get screenshots for you, Joey, like when Mando says, we need that up there for payment, Grogu is also like pointing with his little fingers at the
Yeah,
IG
yeah.
unit
That
with
thing.
Mando. It's like pretty like funny, like father and son like emulating each other.
Just like Omega and Hunter in the Bad Batch. And I
Right,
just
right.
love that. I just love that dynamic.
Exactly like that. Yeah, good parallel. So I think there's like two scenes with Din that I really enjoyed this season. I mean, there's obviously like tons of Grogu moments that we could throw out 100 different fun moments that we enjoyed here, but two really powerful Din moments. The one where Bo is talking about her father giving his life in defense of Mandalore, and they're in the mines, and then Din stops and he looks at her, and there's this moment of poise, you know, and respect. And he goes, "This is the way. Like, your father died for Mandalore. I would die for Mandalore. It's my first time here, and I'm ready to lay down my life for this place." And it's like a wasteland. So I thought that was a really beautiful moment for Din. And then similarly, when they're on the raft later on, and he's talking to Bo, Bo's looking up at the moon, and she's like, "What am I doing here?" And Din's like, "I'll follow you to the end of the earth, the end of Mandalore." You know, I love both of those scenes where Din is showing how deeply loyal of a person he is. If there's one quality that humans have, it's like being loyal to someone, especially in a moment of need when they don't believe in anything. You know, when Bo's in the mine, she's like, this place is a joke. I don't believe in this place. But Din is like, but I believe in it, you know, and he kind of reinvigorates that in Bo. And same thing on the ship, you know, I'm behind you, Bo. Your song has not been written. I'm going to serve you until it is. And she needs that pep talk again. And I freaking love that. That's great writing. That's great Star Wars. I'm in. And that's why we need to link up with more Mandalorians, because Din can bring that to other people that are still out there that are not walking the way with the rest of the tribes yet.
Yep. I love that idea so much. Him taking that out into the Mandalorians out there that have no idea that Mandalore is their home again, and taking that out there for that. And when he says that to Bo in the mines, when she's talking about her father and he says, "This is the way," Pedro Pascal is almost like playing it a little choked up. And that is incredible. I love it when these shows show us the emotion of the character behind helmets. Obi-Wan Kenobi did this amazingly with Vader. Like, you can feel his presence and his anger, even though he's got the helmet on. And in that moment of The Mandalorian, you could also like feel the emotion in that scene, even though he's wearing a helmet. And it's not even Pedro Pascal under there. So there's that. Guess what? I have more than one answer too.
Shocker.
Apart from the final scene being my favorite scene of the season, probably, which I also think that's not nothing. If the season ends and that last scene is your favorite scene, I think that's pretty special, maybe regardless of how the rest of the season went. But I will say that just that scene, like you're saying, Royce, with Din and Bo, and Din saying, "Your song is not yet written, I will serve you until it is," that is it. That's it. That's like showing us what kind of Mandalorian, what kind of person Din is. And I love that. And then number 3 is when Grogu breaks up the fight between Paz and Axe. Because what it means for Grogu, like that's the first instance I think we see him be that peacekeeper, right? Whether he learned it from Keller and Beck or whether he learned it from Luke, we see that. And then we also, from that point on, he has shown Paz and Axe something special, and they exist together after that. They save him. They both blast off with him from that ship when the monster destroys it. Like I said, Paz lays down cover for Axe to get free. We were questioning if Axe was the spy, and that's why he wanted to escape, and he wasn't, and he's kind of badass in that last episode. But Paz just is like, of course, I'm going to lay down cover for you so you can get up there. There's a hole in the ceiling. Go, go, go. Get help. Incredible. And it all was from the moment that Grogu broke them up. So, Those are my 3.
All right, listeners, we want to hear what your top favorite moments from this season were. Jump down into the comment section and let us know what you think, or hit us up wherever you like the social media, and make sure to subscribe for more of our podcast coverage here. And thank you for listening to the show today. I've been Royce.
I've been Robin.
I've been Lorelai.
And I've been Din Joey.
And we've been
Krypton to
We'll say
Alderaan.
Plazier 15 this time.